on cloud, there's a misunderstanding. There's certainly some confusion out there. I would like to break it down into two main areas: from the cloud and for the cloud. So from the cloud, that would be security solutions offered as SaaS. Okay. So I'm using Cisco Umbrella, Stealth Watch Cloud by Cisco, or Palo Alto Global Protect, Meraki Security Solutions. They just name a few, right? These are all solutions that I'm consuming from the cloud. Okay. I'm not really speaking about protecting anything at this point. I'm just speaking of we're consuming these solutions as they're offered as a SaaS based security solution.
Gotcha. So they're delivered in a cloud model, basically.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then security to protect cloud SaaS applications is another thing that this is where it gets confusing. Is it a solution that is being delivered, or is it something that we're actually trying to protect? So the next thing is security to protect those cloud SaaS applications. For instance, Office 365, okay, Salesforce, Dropbox, to name a few. Okay, what are the solutions that we can put into place, right, to make sure that we're protecting those applications that we're consuming from the cloud? And then for the cloud, that's the big one. That is security for the public cloud. That's broken down into two areas, right? Native. So it's everything that AWS, Azure, and GCP can offer natively within their own platform. Okay. And then what are the third-party security solutions that can complement what we're doing with those native solutions? Okay, like Palo Alto, Cisco, Viptela, SD-WAN, StealthWatch, VMware, NSX, ACI, Anywhere. These are all things that are offered as third-party complementary solutions to what a customer can already do with a native cloud security solution.
So is this mostly informational for our audience today, or does your practice see that this confusion or this misunderstanding about the different segments actually is at the cause of some of the things the clients are seeing?
Yeah. It's often hard to have discussions with customers on cloud because you have to understand what context they're coming from, right? Are we trying to offer more security solutions offered as SaaS, or are we trying to protect our SaaS applications as we're adopting them more, right? Or are we trying to address our public cloud initiatives, right? So you have to kind of break it down before you can understand what those, what to recommend for a customer. You really got to understand what we're talking about and what the scope is.
So this is more about what they're actually trying to accomplish and understanding that and making sure they understand that.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
So, how Conrad secures this cloud? It's, we're protecting SaaS applications. We're protecting, as we mentioned, right? We're protecting the public cloud environments, securing access to the clouds, we mentioned, and then providing those advisory services around that, whether it be through, assessments, best practice services, and whatnot. And we're going to drill into this a little deeper, okay? So as we do drill into it deeper, some of those use cases, right, for securing the cloud is, implementing effective internet security. Okay? So that's, that means staying safe anytime, anywhere, right? We're trying to protect ourselves from malicious internet destinations. Okay, it's sort of the same thing we're doing today on-prem, on an on-prem data center or in our campus offices. You're implementing a lot of the same concepts, but you're implementing them in the cloud. Okay?
Well, and especially because it's cloud, we talked about earlier, it pushes things beyond your four walls, kind of that old on-prem paradigm. It's almost like there's it just multiplies the threat vectors that you have to deal with now, because you've got this kind of network, you've got these remote users, you have this traffic in and out of your environment, but also within your environment. It just seems like it just multiplies the size of the problem.
It does. It's a big problem. And that's why going back to what we were saying earlier, is you need to look at it as a complete comprehensive solution, right? Building, one policy that can, that can spread across all of your different environments. Okay. TDOS mitigation techniques and solutions, perimeter security. It's all the same. These are things that you need to implement in any environment. Okay. And they do happen to have, most of the vendors out there, the good news is they have solution offerings that can be positioned not just in AWS or Azure or Google, they can be positioned in your on-prem environment as well. So you can have that single cohesive solution with a single pane of glass.
And
Okay.
thus we're back to that any cloud approach that you guys are taking.
That's right. And then I'm kind of picking on Office 365 here in my next use case, but protecting email solutions is really important. It's protecting against phishing and ransomware. Business email compromise is huge. It happens every day. So it's it's very easy for someone just to open up an email and click on a link, and the attacker has access to too much. So that's where we get into good solid endpoint protection, because assuming that something got through, your endpoints are now protected through endpoint protection. Things like DNS security, OpenDNS, Cisco Umbrella, allows us to safeguard ourselves against those type of threats that are coming in through email. And then, just email itself, protecting the email, the Office 365 environment is, you're looking at, CASB and, identity access management solutions, right? Solutions that can offer multi-factor authentication to prevent, again, back to what we were saying about unauthorized access, someone stealing accounts. It happens all the time. So having, safeguards in place around identity and access management and, it is really important to do. Okay. So it's not just securing Office 365. You also have to, it goes hand in hand with also securing that endpoint, right? So
Just one facet of the many endpoint protection things that you
yeah.
need to cover. Yeah.
Yep. That's right. Safeguarding your SaaS applications and then shadow IT. Okay. So that is visibility and control. We need more visibility and control to enable us to continue to adopt cloud. Okay. It's a lot easier to adopt cloud when you feel like you have more visibility or you have some level of visibility and control of what's happening in your environment. Okay. As applications are being pushed out into the cloud, okay, whether it be public cloud or SaaS applications, you really again want to have that good foundation for identity and access management, right? So that how those users are accessing those applications, right? How are they authenticating into them? Who is authenticating into them? Where are they coming from, right? You might have a user log into Office 365, and they logged in from Massachusetts, and 30 seconds later, that same user logged in from China, okay, for instance. So that's a problem, right? So what kind of things can we put in place to be able to notify us when there's a problem, or even better, prevent it from happening in the first place and block that additional access? Okay.
Aaron, do you have any favorite, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have any sort of favorite examples of any of these things that you've worked on with clients where kind of, I don't know, just a real world example of where it was either a lack of knowledge or a lack of awareness or lack of visibility that sort of turned into a solution with you guys that helped a client?
Yeah, we see all the time clients there's unauthorized access to the email based on user credentials being stolen. or they were stolen because there was malware on malware on the system that was able to intercept the authentication process. They get their hands on the user login info, and they're able to now embed themselves on the client's workstation as long as they want, and they can read email, they can respond to emails, they can intercept all that, all of the information, the thread, right, between a client and the business, and they can do a lot of damage. But what helps with that is training, social engineering, right? It's really important to we can put all these systems in place, but without good training and social engineering, protection, it's going to continue to happen.
Technology and good practice go hand in hand then.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, public cloud visibility, detection, and remediation is really important also. It's detecting those threats to give us greater insight and visibility into what's happening, especially for compliance. It's as customers are moving to the cloud, you need to maintain the same compliance that you had, whether it be HIPAA or PCI. That doesn't go away. It actually becomes more important because you lose a little bit of control. So you have to make sure that you're maintaining your security posture for that compliance, across different environments.
So is that an approach that you guys take where, I mean, obviously, most businesses, the sky is not falling. So their IT infrastructure at least serves the business. But hey, now we want to take care of, we want to take advantage of all of these, the elasticity, the scalability, all these great features of the cloud, but we don't know how to reinstitute what we have today in the cloud. Is that a common sort of situation you guys?
Yeah, very, very common. And that brings me to my next point about what you just said, elastic network protection across these environments. Customers have compliance today. They have to maintain certain levels of network segmentation, for instance, okay, within their campus or data center. What we hear from customers often is, I need to do the same thing, but I need to have that operate and work very similar in a cloud environment. Okay, so that means I need to have some sort of segmentation strategy, to across all of my cloud networks. So how do I do that? Well, and how do I do that without having to have different solutions everywhere? Well, there are a lot of solutions out there, anything from software-defined networking, next-gen firewalls, SD-WAN especially, that can give you a single pane of glass and a single policy where I can stretch my network boundary to all of these different environments across hybrid and multi-cloud, and I can maintain that segmentation and that network or security policy across. SD-WAN especially, it's one of the hottest things for us right now. It's not just stitching the networks together, but it's within SD-WAN, we can now provide segmentation of network zones or zoning or segments, or however you want to phrase it. Every customer has those same challenges, and with SD-WAN, we can actually stretch that across, and we can do it through that single pane of glass through one policy or as many policies as we need, and we can rinse and repeat that process because it scales very easily. So yeah, SD-WAN is been a really big topic for us these days. And then two more: protect your data and workloads and applications. Right? You can either do it through encryption, segmentation, okay, or other visibility services, okay. And this is something that a lot of customers take for granted that they do today on-prem. For instance, I'll get a three-tier application, web app database, okay? Well, I can physically go into a data center and I can actually create boundaries with switches and routers, okay? When you get into a cloud environment, it's really hard to have that web app database segmentation virtually without putting the right policies and solutions in place, okay? So what we get asked a lot from customers is, how do we maintain that type of security, right, for my workloads and applications that I do today on-prem? And we can do that through, tools or solutions like ACI, VMware NSX. That can all live inside a public cloud now, okay? It's not just for on-prem. It just doesn't operate on physical switches and routers anymore. Same thing with firewalls and those other, solutions that go into the traditional network. All of that can help protect your workloads and applications and provide much more visibility that they had in the past, end
So
to end.
you can sort of recreate the protections you have in that physical world, but it's a completely new discipline to do it in the virtual
That's
world, in the cloud world,
that's
and that's something you
that's
guys.
right.
Okay.
And what's here at ConRes, we've been doing this a really long time, and we have experts who have been all of these things. We've been doing them on-prem for years, and we've evolved, so we can handle these challenges now in any environment. Okay.
Okay.
And then finally, event-driven security is gaining a lot of traction. So what event-driven security is, and it's really about listening to those events and alerts and providing automation around it. Okay. You might do it for a compliance reason. You might do it for security standards that are part of your organization, or there might be for CIS controls. But it's the crux of it is taking those events and alerts and again providing that automation, okay, of how do I handle those events and what type of actions do I take, okay? For instance, like with AWS, it's taking advantage of things, CloudTrail, CloudWatch, SNS, taking those tools that are native within AWS, putting them together in a best practice manner and actually getting them working, right? So that you can now provide action, more intelligence on those alerts and those threats, and you can even do auto remediation. Okay, like for instance, I'll give you an example: is being alerted automatically through an event, right? That an account, right, didn't have the right MFA, right, set up, or the privilege level for that user was incorrect, right, or they went beyond what they should have been able to do. Okay. Another great example is looking for inconsistent changes in the infrastructure. So with AWS, for instance, or any of these cloud environments, it's really easy to build your infrastructure, okay? But how do I get alerted to when changes have been made, right? And then take action, okay? With ease, there's risk, right? So, and that's what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of credentials being compromised. We're seeing things being turned up in the environment that should not have been turned up, right? Things are changing really quickly. So how do we make sure that we're alerted to those changes? We see those events, and when those events happen, how do we actually automate either notifying that something happened or actually trying to remediate or prevent it from happening, right? And put a blocker in place.